Hello, hello, hello. It's Celeste here. And it's January the 3rd. Oh my goodness, 3 days into the year. I want to start off this message in a different way. So let me get started right here. You can probably guess what way that is going to be, right? Listen, here we go. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. I grew up with this verse all my life. It was the theme verse for my church, Agilent Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan. And so I want to start off this message with a little song. Even though I can't see and I can't feel your touch, I will trust you, Lord. How I love you so much, though my nights may seem long and I feel so alone. Lord, my trust is in you. I surrender to you. So many painful thoughts travel through my mind, and I wonder how I will make it through this time, but I'll trust you. Lord, it's not easy. Sometimes the pain in my life makes you seem far away, but I'll trust you. I need to know you're here. Through the tears and the pain, through the heartache and rain, I'll trust you. Oh my goodness. I love that song. That song was recorded by the one that I know was James Fortune and Faya. And it goes on to talk about how you trust God through all kinds of situations, even when you can't see him or feel him and it's not so obvious, but we must continue to trust him no matter what. So I wanted to just highlight a couple of things. Today is day 3, as I mentioned, and if you've been watching my videos so far this year, 2 days into it, I'm part of this 100x 31-day wisdom challenge, and what we're doing is going through the book of Proverbs in the Bible, and today being day 3, we're in chapter 3, and I started off with that very interesting first verse or passage. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. And as I indicated, it was the verse that I grew up with. We heard it over and over and over again because it was the theme of our church and we carried it on through our home, etc. Well, today we were going through, and it was a great session, another one. Thank you so much for Pedro and Suzanne, Adeo, and all of the others, Holly, and all of the other people who are participating. And a great shout out to Alice Cameron, who introduced me to Pedro. Hey, Alice. And all of the other people who are going on this journey with me, and all of the many others around the world, literally. It is a wonderful thing. I'm anticipating great breakthroughs for us all this month. But I want to just highlight a couple of things in the passage of the 3rd chapter, and in particularly because we're using the Passion Translation Bible. And there's all these different translations, and each of them have their own little tweak and touch on angle on how the word is interpreted. And I love this. I hadn't looked at the Passion. I have a lot of Bibles, but I never had the Passion Translation. And so I'm real excited to see this new version. And I want to start with that passage that I just said, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, in the Passion Translation. And then I'm going to highlight just a couple of the verses that really resonated for me. And I'm doing so not just to share from my perspective what really hit home for me, but I trust that some of you out there listening and watching, you'll feel the same thing. So here we go. That verse says, trust in the Lord completely and do not rely on your own opinions. With all your heart, rely on him to guide you, and he will lead you in every decision you make, which is so important. A lot of times we make decisions using just our intellect, which is good. He gives us a brain, he gives us thoughts, and we should examine and make some decisions, some strategic planning and all of that. But in the end of the day, if you really want to walk with wisdom, making the best choices, then you want to consult God in the pathway. So you trust him and you don't lean to your own wisdom, your own insight, but you trust him to lead you. A couple of other verses that I love that I'll highlight is, my child, this is the beginning of that chapter. It says, my child, if you truly want a long and satisfying life, let's stop right there. Who doesn't want a long and satisfying life? Really? Okay, so what do you do? That's the thing. If you want it, never forget the things that I've taught you. Follow closely every truth that I've given you. Well, in order to follow every truth that he's given us, we have to read and know what those truths are. So that is a great reason to start diving into the word. Let your life be shaped by integrity with truth written upon your heart. Now, let me say this, because when I read it today and before, we often like that word integrity, and it's a great word, but integrity just means in alignment with what you said, doing what you said you were going to do. And it doesn't necessarily mean doing the right things, because you can operate in integrity and be a scoundrel. I often share with people, but when you add the rest of that sentence, is to let your life be shaped by integrity with truth written upon your heart, it makes a difference. So I wanted to point that out. I think it's really important to be mindful of being in alignment with your word, being true to your word, following through, operating in integrity, but doing so in alignment with truth and what's right and what's fair. That's how you will find favor and understanding with both God and man. And then there's a couple of other verses further down in verse 9 I highlighted, because it says, glorify God with all your wealth, honoring him with your very best, with every increase that comes to you, period. Then every dimension of your life will overflow with blessings from an uncontainable source of inner joy. Ah, that's good. Overflow with blessings. That's a good thing. And an uncontainable source of inner joy. How about that? Just honoring God with your first fruits. That's your money. That's tithes. That's, contributing and making a difference. A couple more verses. It says, my child, when the Lord God speaks to you, never take his words lightly. And never be upset when he corrects you. For his passionate love and pleasure for you. Wait a minute. For the Father's discipline comes only from his passionate love and pleasure for you. So it says, of course, when he speaks to you, when you get an inkling, when you get clarity, and as you know him more, you'll be able to discern his voice more. Some people say, well, how do I know it's God? And I've asked that question many times before. How do I know it's not indigestion? Well, the more you know him, it's just like anyone else. If you know someone in your family, you know your child's voice in the midst of a crowd. When you hear them call your name, you know it's that child because you know them so well. So part of the assignment on our part is to get to know him really well so that we will know the voice. So when he does speak, we don't take it lightly. And even if he corrects us, which he will, those who love our children, we correct them lovingly, but we correct them. So just embrace that. And then to gain the riches of wisdom is far greater than gaining the wealth of the world. That's that verse that comes back. What would it gain a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? We don't want to do that. As wisdom increases, a great treasure is imparted, greater than many bars of refined gold. Wisdom extends to the long life in one hand and wealth and promotion in the other. How about that? Long life and wealth and promotion? Good combination. The Lord laid the earth's foundation with wisdom's blueprint. How about that? If he laid the foundations with wisdom's blueprint, and I remember hearing Pedro say today, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us, right? We need to embrace that and go on. The last little passage I will say from this chapter 3 is found in verse 21. It says, my child, never drift off course from these two goals for your life. Two goals. Never drift off course from these two goals in your life. Number one, to walk in wisdom and to discover discernment. To walk in wisdom and discover discernment. Don't ever forget how they empower you. Wisdom is sound behavior, sound actions that are based on either experiences, knowledge, or good judgment. It's application of, it's not information, is making wise choices, acting in wisdom. And then discernment is the ability to judge well, to perceive, perceive what is and what isn't, to really learn how to make some discernment, some distinctions between what is good, what is not good, what's right, what's not right, and being wise enough to make the right choice. I remember one last thing I'll say. Here in Atlanta, there is actually Alpharetta, Georgia, a little bit further north. There's a church called North Point Community Church, and Andy Stanley, who is Charles Stanley's son, has this big church, and it's great, and they really minister to non-believers. Those what do they call it? I don't know how they call it. But anyways, for those that are not, have the unchurched, that's what they say. They reach out to the unchurched. And one of the things that he did a session a few years ago, and it was a couple of key questions. He said, you can just ask yourself these questions when you face any scenario. And the one that's relevant to what we're talking about today in wisdom, he says, what is the wise thing for me to do? If you ask yourself that question in the midst of whatever, you probably know the right thing to do if you just take a minute and listen to the direction you'll get. So whatever you're facing, decisions on buying things, decisions on joining groups, decisions on taking jobs, or whatever it might be, ask the question, what is the wise thing for me to do in this situation? And many times that will help you to get some direction. All right, I'm going to wrap up now. It's been a while. But I hope that some of these ideas, the song or some of the ideas, encouraged you. That when you trust God, who is the creator of all things, is what I believe. Some you may not believe that, and that's fine. You can still listen and glean some points from here. But I believe he owns everything. He has all the insight, and you just rely on him and trust on him. It takes a lot of pressure off, and I think Suzette said that too as well. But yeah, so that's my message for today. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. A nod to Pastor Robinson. That's what it was back there at Agilent Baptist Church. All right, bye for now. Take care. God bless. Let me slide this over. Have a great evening, the rest of it, and we'll talk tomorrow. Tomorrow, more around 2 o'clock. I'll try to be on at that time. All right, take care. Bye.